Fellow Kenyans, I want to address the country today in my capacity as an elected leader and as a Kenyan who loves this country and cares about the future of this country. From the outset, I want to tell Kenyans that I did not vote for the UDA government in the elections of 2022. I voted myself for Raila Odinga. And Raila Odinga had more votes in my constituency and much more votes than UDA, more than 23,000 votes, and UDA had only 508 votes in my constituency. But the basic rules and understanding and philosophy of democracy itself is that you go for elections. Whatever the system is, the number of systems that are used. In the past, we used to use what was called the first past most system. But now we use what's called the 50% power plus one. Whoever has the majority of the Kenyan voters becomes the president. In the election prior to this, elections prior to this constitution, we used to have whoever has a simple majority more than his closest rival used to become the president. For example, if you put the cumulative votes of Matiba and Kibaki and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga together, plus the other small presidential candidates in the elections of 1992, they had over 3 million something votes. And Moi had only 1.8 million votes, and he became the president because that's called the first past post system. But in the constitution of 2010, we changed that and we created a new system that says whoever is going to become the president has to have the majority of the Kenyan voters on his side. That's why it's called 50% plus one. But and the system that was there, we had a president called Uhuru for 10 good years. For 10 good years. Uhuru had promised Kenyans that he was going to support his deputy, William Ruto, when he's through with his 10 years of serving in the presidency of this country. But he betrayed his colleague. He betrayed his deputy. In the last 5 years of Uhuru's government, Ruto was nothing in the Uhuru government. But that young man soldiered on with his own principles, with his own philosophy, with his own manifesto. And he defeated an array of the rest of the leadership, the most powerful, the former Prime Minister, myself, a former Deputy Speaker, Uhuru Kenyatta, and many other, leaders in the country, and won. We were defeated as Azimio, and he won the elections. Now, the rules of democracy is that once you win the elections, we serve our role as opposition members of parliament and support the government where there are good deeds that the government does. But the governance of the country falls squarely on the winners. You can only change the winner in the next or the subsequent election. The primary role of the government itself is also, among other things, to pass what you call and levy taxes, bills, and use those taxes also to run the system of the government, to run the development, to manage the country, to run the security, to run the foreign affairs of this country. Literally, they are the ones who are going to govern the nation. We have a kind of a bad tradition in this country that needs to be changed one way or the other. The moment you lose elections, you go out into the streets. Opposition went out into the streets. The head of state went out of his way and reached out to the opposition and said, let's have a handshake. He had a handshake with the former Prime Minister, who was his foe. Reached out to him. Then we have a problem within the government. A section of the electorate who supported, or the leadership of those who supported the president, decided, no, we have decided that this government is ours exclusively. And nobody else is going to come into the government. Nobody else is going to. A development agenda for the nation is going to be determined by us and in strict accordance with who voted for him and who did not vote for him. That's why the deputy president betrayed his own president, his boss, and decided to say that we don't care. We're going to put traps all over State House. We'll make sure that Raila never comes to State House. He went out of his way to talk about this country as if it's a region. It's a region that manages the country. That certain sections of the community Kenyans did not vote for the president, so they do not deserve any development. They did not deserve appointments into the government system. So there was this cracks within the government, the ruling elite, and the deputy president had to go because the presidency, the executive of the country is the presidency, it's the president. According to the constitution, the deputy president is a principal assistant to the president. And that's the politics. That has changed. He was impeached. When he was impeached on the floor of the House, he lost with a landslide. Unanimous decision on the part of the members of the parliament was to say, we don't want him. This is a village politician, a village elder, and he cannot be a heartbeat away from the presidency. 282 members of parliament voted for the impeachment motion, and only 44 voted against it. It might be not such a good and not such a savory thing, but it's the nature of politics. It's the nature of democracy. It's the principles of our constitution. And he goes home, and without any due respect to the oath of office that he had, which is the oath to secrecy. To secrecy. When you are in the executive, when you are in any office, and you take an oath of secrecy, which means whatever comes to you in the form of information because of the status or the office you hold is held in strict secrecy, and only on those ones who are cleared to have that information can have that information. Now he talks about all the meetings they had with the president, all the confidential discussions of the government. All governments all over the world do have that concept of confidential discussion. They never talk about it. I remember as a young parliamentarian in 1993, 94, 95, I was there at the foot of one Ochieng Oneko, a statesman par excellence. Ochieng Oneko was detained by Kenyatta, his old colleague. Initially, he was detained with Kenyatta in Kapenguria. Before that, he was detained for fighting for Kenya's independence in Manda Island. And when Kenyatta came to power, he also detained him. So I tried to prod Ochieng Oneko to find out what was his opinion about Kenyatta. He told me, no, my son, when you are in the government and the people you work with, you take those secrets to your grave. I'm not going to say anything about Kenyatta, my old brother, my old colleague, the first president of this Republic of Kenya, Independent Republic of Kenya, and the first prime minister. Here we have young people. When you're a DO, you've been through the administration system, although he was dismissed and sacked as a DO. I'm talking about Gachagua. But here he is. And look at the other ministers also who are running around. Oh, we sat with the president. Oh, I was hearing him when he was making a telephone call to so-and-so. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. That's not how to run a country. That's not statecraft. Now, let's leave that character itself and that culture that we are trying to make now, the political culture of this country. It's sad. We got now to development. To begin with, Kibaki left when we had a total debt of $1.7 trillion. Sorry, 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings. Uhuru inherited that. He left the country when we were almost $9 trillion, 8 point something trillion shillings. That's the debt. He borrowed left, right, and center. He took Eurobond. He took everything. He stole this country dry. He took everything. Not only did he take the natural resources, but he also stole the debts, the debts that were taken from outside. That's a man, for lack of a better word, who did what he did. I have had an opportunity to serve with him in Parliament when I was the Deputy Speaker, and he approached me and talked to me not less than 100 times. As a Minister for Finance, as a Deputy Prime Minister, he had issues. And you have to go and approach the Speaker and talk about certain things, businesses. I can say for sure, I've never seen Uhuru sober. Morning, evening, day, anytime. But we tolerated him as our president for that long period. With all his corruption, with all his kleptocracy, with all his horrible character. Because you get close to him, somebody like me who has never drunk, you can easily become drunk by getting too close to him. The vapor can make you drunk. But we tolerated him as our president. And we still want to respect him as a retired president. That was that was the state of the government, country itself. Give credit to Ruto. He took over a broke country. He went all over the world to retire those debilitating, punitive commercial loans that were taken by Uhuru, and to go for the bilateral and the multilateral loans from World Bank and IMF and countries themselves, who had 0.7 or 0.76% interest plus liable, which essentially was under the 6 years moratorium. He arrested the downward spiral of our Kenya shilling against the dollar. Within a month or two of his presidency, the dollar was transacting at 162. Today it's transacting at 128.29. He employed 76,000 teachers. Never happened in the history of this country. In 2 years' time, he employed 76,000 teachers. He has taken development to the four corners of the country. We're waiting for a road that comes from Isiolo all the way to Mandera, and the contractor is on the ground, and the job is ongoing. The contracts are ongoing. We have a road that's going to be from Garissa, actually from Madogo in Tana River, all the way to our border with Somalia, Harhar, Liboy, Dadaab, Liboy, Harhar, Garissa, Madogo, Garissa, Dadaab, Liboy, Harhar. And the government has already taken that into its plan. As soon as the design is over, the road is going to be launched. We are seeing development and tarmac roads for the first time since we got independence in this country. Children in my constituency do not even know what a tarmac looks like. My constituency headquarters is going to be tarmac now. The constituency headquarters of Wajir West will be tarmacked. It's there in this budget. They are there. The constituency headquarters of Fafi will be tarmacked. So in terms of development, we are now having a development that goes in the four corners of the country. I was supposed to fill a form that was called a P7 form when I applied for my passport in 1980. And it says into brackets, to be filled by non-indigenous Kenyans, i.e. Arabs, Indians, and Somalis. Now, if I am non-indigenous I'm a Kenyan, who is the indigenous person to Garissa? Who is the indigenous person to Wajir? Who is the indigenous person to Mandera, to Marsabit, to Moyale? If myself and my Boran Cushitic brothers and Gabra and Sequia and Redile are not indigenous to this country, or is somebody telling me that these places I'm talking about right now are not Kenya? They're not part of Kenya. They're either Somalia or Ethiopia. When he comes out there and says the normal vetting continues, but that discriminative, punishing vetting for Somalis is removed. He gave us independence for the first time. He gave us equality for the first time. And he's doing that in the four corners of this country. And that does not only affect me, it affects almost every other community except the center. It affects the Abaluya, who are in Busia, Malaba, and all the Busia, you know, the Bukusu, the Bagisu, the Masais in Tanzania and Kenya, the Digos, Kenya and Tanzania. It affects everybody. The Borans in Moyale, Marsabit, and on those places. Now, Kenyans, we lived with Kenyatta here, Jomo Kenyatta. Everybody knows what Jomo Kenyatta did. He didn't have a home when he was built the 2 rooms in Gatundu. He left with this, he died 15 years later when he had millions of acres to his name. And literally the richest family for a very long time to come in this country. We had Moi, who for lack of a better word also has to his name more than hundreds of thousands of acres. We had Kibaki, who as the Minister of Finance had also both improved the country but made sure that the development only goes, serious development only goes to a section of the country. We had Uhuru, who did what he did, everybody knows, literally turned the region he came from into something outside this world, outside this continent, when the rest of us were wallowing in poverty and lack of infrastructure. And we accepted them all and accommodated them and gave them a good send-off and respect them still. Posthumous, and even the one who's living, the only one who's living. We had a leader who had the biggest milk processing country in the country, medical industry in the country, Brookside. His family is named to that. And farmers were selling milk for 18 shillings to the litre. New KCC was revived by our current president, William Ruto. Farmers are now receiving 53 shillings to the litre, 3 times what they used to get paid. And the policies in the milk sector were maintained by a president who has an interest. I was the deputy speaker in this country when the artificial slide of the shilling was done in the 10th parliament. The minister for what do you call, and the minister for finance at that time was Uhuru Kenyatta, who is also a serious investor in the banking sector. And banks, connected banks, made billions of Kenya shillings, billions, tens, scores of billions of Kenya shillings in the shortest possible time, because artificial slide of the shilling down, and then and then lifting of the shilling again. And they made that. Well, that report is there, the parliamentary report is there. So today, when you look at the kind of the track record, the first thing that the opposition came up with was that cost of living. How much does a 2 kilogram of maize meal cost today? It costs 50% of what it costed. But the cost was when Ruto took over. Sugar the same. For the first time in more than 40 years, we are not importing sugar from outside, and 17 sugar factories have been revived. We have a surplus now. We have a surplus of in excess of 80,000 metric tons of sugar. We're going to be selling it to the rest of the world. We have a bumper harvest. We are not importing maize. We used to import maize in this country. I am a founder member of the Coffee and Tea Parliamentary Association of the 7th Parliament in 1993, along with my good friends, Paul Mwite, Kiraitu Murungi, myself, Farah Maalim. And I'm not a coffee farmer, I was a coffee consumer, but I was worried about the fate of our own coffee farmers, a cash crop for our country at that time, and even tomorrow, even today. Jerome Diga, who was a member of parliament, I think, from Manyata, was one of those ones from Embu. The other day, I also joined my colleagues when we were fighting for the coffee sector and went to Meru and had that big, what do you call gathering. At that time, coffee farmers were getting 45 shillings to the kilogram of cherries. Today, they're getting 145. And they're getting paid through what they're calling DSS, Direct Settlement System. Within 5 days of selling to the buyers, they get their money in their account. There were serious cartels very well connected to the political class, the richest, the most powerful people in this country who were there before. And the money used to go to them. The coffee farmers were suffering very hard. Today, our coffee farmers are laughing all the way to the bank. President launched value addition into the tea sector. Today, our tea farmers are laughing all the way to the bank. They are better than they've ever been. Every sector is registering improvements and developments. Every sector. The financing model right now, in terms of the university education, I am an interested party because I'm one person who has so much interest in university education. I mean, nobody else in this country, in my opinion, leadership right now, has done, as a member of parliament, has done as much as I've done for education in my constituency and the wider Northeastern province. Today, our children are getting the support that they need. Now, what exactly is going on in the country? When you have a sense of entitlement in a section of the country that everything belongs to you and everybody else is, some kind of the racial discrimination we used to have before. And this is within the elite leaders, not with the common Kenyans who live in the four corners of this country. You risk plunging the country into chaos. For the first time in as long as I've lived, I see people calling the president. The president is a symbol of the sovereignty of the country himself. When we say we the people, with the people themselves, exercise that sovereignty only once in every 5 years through the votes. But that is handed over to the president. And you're calling the president all sorts of names. Kasongo, Kaongo, all sorts of names. We never did that to Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta. We didn't do that to Moi. Moi, we called him a passing cloud the same way people are calling him now, are calling Ruto. But again, we didn't do it to Kibaki. With all its imperfections, we also respected, as the head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta. The irony of things is that the same person was respected despite all his shortcomings. All his shortcomings. Is the man right now inciting the young people to turn against the government of the day. When this government has done much more than he would ever dream to do himself, when there's more what you call integrity in the government here. Because when I talk about integrity, I have seen lack of integrity. My fellow Kenyans, let us protect the development of our country. Let us allow our president the space that he needs to deliver more. To deliver more. Whatever you do to him today, in terms of disrespecting the institution of the presidency for the sake of a very narrow, what do you call interests, narrow ethnic interests, narrow regional interests. This is a country where nobody has a majority. The biggest community in this country is barely 17% of the population. 83% are other Kenyans. Even when you lump together a region, no region has got more than 25%. The mountain region is the most populous, it's only about 25% of the population. We still have 75% coming from the rest of the country. We have a massive diversity. It's time the masses of this country call the bluff of this elite, Uhuru, Gachagua, and their own, cartel elite who are trying to portray their own personal misfortunes as misfortunes for their region. I was watching Gachagua saying that, as a community, the reason why Ruto doesn't like me is because I'm fighting for my region. But you're supposed to be the president of this country one time. You are a heartbeat away from the presidency. You're already in the presidency. You're number 2. And he says, we used to control the intelligence, we control the military, we control the CID, we had all these positions, and now we don't have them, we only have 2. What about the rest of the country? What about the rest of the country? Are they your subjects? Are they your slaves? Are they your chattel? Are they not humans who have feelings and who have aspirations, who have the rights to this country like you think you have the rights to this country? Fellow Kenyans, Rwanda went through what it went through. We want to unite our country. Nobody is going to be there permanent. Kenyatta came and left, Jomo came and left, Moi came and left, Kibaki came and left, Uhuru came and left. Ruto will also leave. He will leave when the time comes. So don't mess the country. Don't destroy our country. As for me, I'm a nationalist, I'm a patriot. I believe in equality and equity. And that is not going to be, there's no negotiation about that. It's given. It's given. For the first time, you're seeing serious development in Luo Nyanza. Serious development is coming on the way in Western Kenya. Serious development in the Coast Province also. Jomo Kenyatta came to power in 1963. One of the first things he did is that he made sure that he allocated all the beach land from Vanga, which is our border with Tanzania, all the way to Kiunga, which is our border with Somalia, and allocated to his own relatives there, his own people, his own tribesmen. You called yesterday Moi, a passing cloud. You're saying, we'll get rid of Ruto. Who? Nani? Ruto is going to stay, I'm telling you. He'll finish his 5 years. The record speaks for itself. He will have another 5 years, again, of bringing development to the rest of the country, and that's it. Then we'll have an election. And chance has it that the next president will either come from Luo Nyanza, or come from Western Kenya, or come from the Coast Province, or come from Northeastern Province. I was vilified in the media the other day because somebody edited a clip to say that I called for only one reason. I called for the death of somebody. I never called for the death of anybody. No, I never. It was edited by people just, and when this thing was taken to NCIC, and they went through it, and it was taken to the Communication Authority, and all the experts were brought in there, and they realized, no, this is an edited radical clip. But the reason why those people who are parroting this nonsense, these lies around, is because they could not stand Farah Maalim voting against the finance bill. They were used to me being in the opposition. No, my opposition is for a purpose. It's an objective opposition. You're wrong, I'll object to you. You're right, I'll support you. And that is what it is. This country is for us all. Nobody's more equal than the other. Nobody's more equal than the other. You think you're more equal than the other? No. Rwanda went the route it went because the leadership that time, Habyarimana, did not want to grant rights to the Tutsis of Rwanda, who numbered less than 20% of the population. and kill 1 million of them. People he prepared, Interahamwe and all those people, killed 1 million of them. But how did that end again? The same Tutsis came back, took over the country. Kagame is now on the boss, in charge, for the last 31 years. And maybe another Tutsi will be there for the next 31 years. It doesn't, numbers do not mean anything. The willpower of the people, the right or wrong. Is it right? Is it right? Yes. Is it wrong? This is what we should be looking at. Is it fair? Is there equality? Is there equity? Those are the kind of things we're going to look for in this country. Not entitlement. There's no entitlement. The young man is doing a very good job, William Ruto. He's younger than me. Let's support him. Thank you.